Hello and welcome. I'm excited to be with you as we honor a monumental milestone in our nation's history. 100 years ago today, the 19th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution was officially adopted, granting women the right to vote. At the time, this event marked the culmination of decades-long work towards suffrage in our country and was led by pioneers I'm sure you are familiar with, like Elizabeth Cady Stanton and Susan B. Anthony, and others who you may be less familiar with, though were equally important in bringing about this historic event. Some may even make an appearance later in the event. Today, we celebrate many things. 100 years of women using their voice and their vote. 100 years of success from women from all walks of life, and 100 years of bending that arc of history towards justice. We continue to bend that arc today and fight for a more equitable future for us all. As I'm sure you are aware, while white women received the right to vote in 1920, women of color did not receive that vote until the passage of the Voting Rights Act in 1965. That's 45 years. This and so many other injustices remind us of the urgency of realizing racial justice in this country. This is no doubt an important year in our nation's history. We celebrate 100 years of women's suffrage. We use our voices to elevate the imperative of a more just society, and we will be called upon to exercise our right to vote once again in November. Regardless of where you stand, every last one of us has an obligation to vote in honor of all the women who fought so hard for us to have this right. Thank you all for having me.
Hello, everyone. We are thrilled that you chose to join us today for this special celebration. Thank you to President Beck for that warm welcome, and to Cal State Channel Islands for being our technology hosts today and for helping to produce the videos that you will enjoy. Women's Equality Day, August 26th, was established by U.S. Congress in 1973 in order to commemorate the 1920 ratification of the 19th Amendment, which affirmed women's right to vote. My name is Tiffany Emhoff, and I am co-chair of Vision 2020 Ventura County, which is a collaboration of local organizations and individual leaders who have been working together for the past year to plan this fabulous event and to raise awareness about the upcoming centennial. A huge thank you to the different organizations and individuals which are noted on your screen. I also want to take a moment to thank our generous sponsors whose contributions made this event possible, and our most sincere appreciation to the League of Women Voters of Ventura County for being our fiscal sponsor. We have a great event planned for you today. Over the next 2 hours, there will be presentations, performances, and a special sneak peek into the newest exhibit curated by the Museum of Ventura County. The schedule for today's activities is also posted on our Facebook page at Vision 2020 Ventura County. We hope that you will join us for the entire program, or feel free to tune in for the portions that interest you most. However, please plan to be back online with your favorite beverage in hand at 5:50, where we will invite all the viewers to turn their videos on, raise a glass in unison to toast to the tenacity of the suffragists. Please take photos of yourself toasting and post them on social media at #ToastToTenacity. And remember to vote on November 3rd or sooner by mail. And now, without further ado, on with the show.
Use your voice. Use your vote.
Use your voice. Use your vote.
Use your voice. Use your vote. Use your voice. Use your vote. Our country now from thee, claim we our liberty.
In freedom's name.
Guarding home's altar fires,
Daughters of patriot sires.
Their zeal our own inspires.
justice to claim.
I don't see any police today, ladies. I think we're safe. Not like our friend Susan Anthony in 1872. Tell us a bit about your life, Susan, and what happened when you decided to vote.
Now here, ladies, listen. I have always believed there will never be complete equality until women themselves help to create laws and elect lawmakers. Now, in my day, it was considered improper for women to give speeches in public. In fact, many times they threatened to arrest me simply for speaking up. But that did not stop me. I continued to preach against the evils of slavery and in support of women's rights and equality. Elizabeth and I formed the National Women's Suffrage Association, demanding a constitutional amendment giving women the right to vote. And in 1872, I went to the polling booth and I voted. I was promptly arrested, tried, and fined $100 for my crime. And what crime was that? I ask you, what crime was that? Wanting my voice to be heard? Now tell me, ladies, when can voting ever be considered a crime? Because after all, it was we, the people, not we, the white male citizens, but we, the whole people, who formed this union. And we formed it not to give the blessings of liberty, but to secure them. Not to half of ourselves, but to the whole people, women as well as men.
Wow, what an amazing story. Thank you for your courageous leadership. Elizabeth Cady Stanton, you and Susan worked together from the very start of the women's suffrage movement. What inspired you to create that first women's conference at Seneca Falls, New York?
We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men and women are created equal. These are what should have been the first words of the Declaration of Independence. So in 1848, I authored a Declaration of Sentiments with resolutions for moral, economic, and political rights of women, first introduced at Seneca Falls. Now, these ideas were controversial at the time, and we suffragists faced criticism wherever we went. Even the male abolitionists with whom we had fought long and hard to end slavery nearly abandoned our cause when the Civil War ended. But that did not silence us. And I continued to fight alongside my suffragette sisters, trying to gain rights for women, including parental rights and property rights, divorce law, employment rights, and access to education and to birth control. We had to fight because in my time in the United States, he had compelled her to submit to laws in the formation of which she had no voice. And he had made her, if married, in the eyes of the law, civilly dead. And he had created a false public sentiment by giving to the world a different set of moral code for men and women. So yes, we fought against these laws, and women continue to fight today. Now, I continued to write and fight until the day I died, because the best protection that any woman can have is courage.
Use your voice. Use your vote.
Thank you, Elizabeth, for being such a dynamic champion for women's rights. I only wish that you and Susan could have lived to see us secure the vote. Sojourner Truth, although you were born enslaved as Isabella Baumfree, your deep faith inspired you to sojourn across our nation, preaching God's truth and advocating for emancipation and women's rights. You were also the first African-American woman to win a lawsuit in the United States when you fought for the freedom of your young son who had been illegally sold into slavery. Your values and principles have withstood the test of time. Please share your revelations.
I want to say a few words about this matter. I have as much muscle as any man and can do as much work as any man. I have plowed and reaped and husked and chopped and mowed. And can any man do more than that? I have heard much about the sexes being equal, and I can carry as much as any man and can eat as much too, if I can get it. I am as strong as any man that is now. The poor men seem to be all in confusion and don't know what to do. Why, children, if you have women's rights, give it to her, and you will feel better. You will have your own rights, and they won't be so much trouble. I can't read, but I can hear. I have heard the Bible and have learned that Eve caused man to sin. Well, if women upset the world, do give her a chance to set it right side up again. The lady has spoken about Jesus, how he never spurned women from him. And she was right. And how came Jesus into the world? Through God who created him and a woman who bore him. Man, where is your part? But man is in a tight place. The poor slave is on him. Woman is coming on him, and he is surely between a hawk and a buzzard.
Use your voice. Use your vote.
Sojourner, you are truly an inspiration for us all. Lucy Stone, you've also been a trailblazer for women. You were well educated and outspoken, even keeping your own name after you married. How did that go over?
From the first years to which my memory stretches, I have been a disappointed woman. Disappointed that I reached for and was denied the same education as my brothers. And when I did put myself through college, upon graduation, I was asked to write the commencement speech that I, as a woman, could not deliver, and found the only professions open to me were that of teacher, seamstress, or housekeeper. I went to work fighting for the rights of Black slaves in the United States, writing and giving public lectures, out-earning men. And when Black men received the right to vote before women, I supported this to the dismay of my comrades because disappointment is the lot of woman. And it has been the business of my life to deepen this disappointment in the heart of every woman until she bowed down to it no longer. I wish that women, instead of being walking showcases, instead of begging of their father and brothers the latest new bonnet, would ask of them their rights. Even when we won the right to vote, I was denied it because I refused my husband's surname. The widening of woman's sphere is to improve her lot. So let us do it. And if the world scoff, let it scoff. If it sneer, let it sneer.
I love your passion. You are the original feminist. Luisa Capetillo, you sure ruffled some feathers in Puerto Rico, where you were one of the first suffragists. How did you build support for universal suffrage within the labor movement?
Oh, you woman, capable and willing to spread the seed of justice. Do not hesitate, do not fret, and do not run away. Go forward. And for the benefit of future generations, place the first stone for the building of social equality in a serene but firm way, with all the right that belongs to you without looking down. Miembros de Federación Libre de Trabajadores, members of the Free Labor Federation, I, Luisa Capetillo de Puerto Rico, compel you to adopt policy and join me in the fight for women's suffrage. It is 1908. Woman, you are an important factor in human civilization and worthy to obtain complete liberty. All women, not just the rich or literate, should have the same right to vote as men. It is 1910. I travel, I organize, I start the newspaper La Mujer. We, in solidarity, confront women's issues. It is 1919. Although a crime to wear pants, I wore pants in public in Puerto Rico and go to jail for that crime so that future generations can wear them freely. I believe nothing to be impossible, nor do I absorb myself in any particular moment or new discovery. For that reason, I find no idea to be utopian. The essential thing is to put each idea into practice, to begin. My sisters, go forward. Do not hesitate, do not fret, and do not run away until we obtain complete liberty.
Use your voice. Use your vote.
Thank you, Luisa, for breaking ground for future generations. You would have loved the ruckus Alice Paul started in Washington with her Women's March and the Silent Sentinels. Tell us about it, Alice.
Get the word out. I'm organizing a huge parade on March 3rd, the day before Woodrow Wilson's inauguration. We will march down Pennsylvania Avenue from the Capitol to the White House. We need banners and floats, bands and equestrians. It will be the largest parade and protest for suffrage that this country has ever seen. And after we're through, we must protest and picket every day at the gates of the White House, standing silently with our signs. Mr. President, how long must women wait for liberty?
Use su voz. Use su voto.
We've just heard snippets from the lives of some of the courageous suffragists whose struggle for women's rights spans 7 decades of our nation's history. Please honor the sacrifices of these super heroes. Use your voice and use your vote. Today, we celebrate the fact that nevertheless, she persisted. Hi, my name is Dawn Dyer, and I'm chair of Vision 2020 Ventura County. I'm also the public policy director for the Ventura County chapter of NABO, National Association of Women Business Owners. August 26, 2020 is the centennial of American women's right to vote. This important anniversary gives us an opportunity to learn about women's history and to commit to advancing gender equality in the future. Understanding history is critical to help us fully appreciate the rights we have today. When the U.S. Constitution was written, women were not given equal standing with men. During the first century of our nation, a married woman was literally considered the chattel or property of her husband. Women could not attend universities, keep their own wages, or sign contracts. We couldn't even own real estate. If a woman were to inherit her family's farm, it became the property of her husband. Let's explore the journey of the courageous suffragists whose struggle for women's rights spanned 7 decades. These sheroes campaigned to put the question of women voting on the ballot, and then to convince enough men to vote to enfranchise women. No easy task, and one that required boldness, daring, and commitment. One of the movement's early leaders, Elizabeth Cady Stanton, remembered, night after night, by an old-fashioned fireplace, we plotted and planned the coming agitation. In 1848, Elizabeth and Lucretia Mott organized the first women's rights convention at Seneca Falls, New York, where Stanton presented the Declaration of Sentiments, proclaiming that all men and women are created equal. Elizabeth met Susan B. Anthony 3 years later, and they fought together for women's rights for 5 decades. Raised as a Quaker, Susan was inspired by the belief that everyone is equal under God. She became a legend in her time and one of the most visible leaders of the suffrage movement. Susan was actually arrested in 1872 for having the audacity to vote. In fact, during the 7 decades of the suffrage movement, hundreds of women were arrested for picketing and sent to jail. Many were beaten, endured hunger strikes, and other deprivations. Alice Paul, who was jailed 3 times, was brutally force-fed by prison guards for weeks. This extreme treatment drew national outrage and put additional pressure on politicians to act. African American women showed great courage in the face of injustice, both before and after the Civil War. There were several early Black suffragists, including Frances Harper, a successful poet and lecturer who used her earnings to aid fugitive slaves. Sojourner Truth, a former slave herself, spoke out for equality and preached extensively throughout the East. Women's suffrage varied by state. Suffragists waged 14 state campaigns between 1867 and 1900. But until 1910, there were still only 4 states where women could vote equally with men: Colorado, Idaho, Wyoming, and Utah. In 1911, California became the 6th state where women could vote equally with men, 9 years before the 19th Amendment enfranchised women nationally. But the California vote was extremely close, passing by an average of only 1 vote per precinct statewide. An important lesson to remember if you ever wonder, does my vote really matter? Between 1900 and 1920, suffragists waged another 40 state campaigns. Remarkably, they won 11 of them, nearly all in the West. By 1919, women could vote equally with men in 15 states. On March 3, 1913, the first massive march in support of women's suffrage was held in Washington, D.C. The assemblage featured 8,000 marchers, 9 bands, 4 equestrian brigades, 20 floats, and an allegorical performance near the Treasury building. Over the following 7 years, thousands of women marched in cities and towns across America, fighting for the most fundamental of democratic rights, the right to vote. Fighting for suffrage was not for the faint-hearted. Battalions of volunteers worked tirelessly, traveling mostly by train from state to state, rallying the troops, marching, posting billboards, and lobbying male lawmakers. One of the most influential members of the 20th century suffrage movement, Alice Paul, was a key figure in the passage of the 19th Amendment. In 1913, the day before the inauguration of President Woodrow Wilson, Paul organized a parade with 1,000 women dressed in white, marching down Pennsylvania Avenue. And in 1917, she launched the Silent Sentinels, a dedicated group of women who began 18 months of daily picketing in front of the White House. Ultimately, the passion of their commitment prevailed. In response to the picketing and hunger strikes, intense lobbying, and political gains in many states, both houses of Congress passed the 19th Amendment in 1919. The following year, enough states had ratified, and after 72 years of effort, over 20 million women were enfranchised. This was the largest single extension of suffrage in human history, and it was accomplished without a revolution, solely through disciplined, nonviolent action. Leave it to the ladies. Now, it's important to acknowledge that although in 1920, the federal right to suffrage was affirmed for all women, in many states, women of color were denied access to the polls until the Voting Rights Act of 1965. Even now, voting continues to be an important civil rights issue that we must all defend. Today, we honor the sacrifice of those who fought for our rights to full citizenship. But there is still much work to be done to ensure that women truly have equal standing with men in America. I want to thank Robert Cooney and the Library of Congress for the fabulous images we've been enjoying. Many of these photos appeared in Mr. Cooney's book, Winning the Vote, which is available at the National Women's History Project. Vision 2020, the nonpartisan National Women's Equality Initiative, is headquartered at Drexel University's Institute for Women's Health and Leadership in Philadelphia. This coalition of organizations and individuals are working together to achieve economic, political, and social equality for all women. I'm honored to be a California delegate, and I'm committed to promoting the Vision 2020 mission, focused on 4 pillars of equality. Achieve 50-50 shared leadership among women and men in business and government. Increase the number of women who participate in the political process by voting and through public service, like running for office. Educate young people to value gender equality, shared leadership, and civic engagement. And advance women's economic security by closing the gender gap in pay and retirement income. Vision 2020 Ventura County is a nonpartisan coalition of local individuals and organizations operating as an independent entity under the fiscal sponsorship of the League of Women Voters, Ventura County. We've been collaborating to produce a series of inspirational events throughout the year. Please follow us on Facebook at Vision 2020 Ventura County, where we'll be posting a video of this event. So we marched in the Ojai July 4th parade in 2019 and received one of 2 top awards. We also marched with our AAUW sisters in the 2019 Camarillo Christmas Parade. And to launch 2020 in grand style, 8 Ventura County women marched in the Pasadena Tournament of Roses Parade on New Year's Day. Truly a once-in-a-lifetime experience. The float was honored with the Theme Award. Upon their shoulders we won the vote. Upon our shoulders we protect the vote. The Toast to Tenacity is a national event with Vision 2020 delegates hosting local toasts in cities and towns across America. We encourage you to have a glass of your favorite beverage ready to join us at 5:50 today, when you'll be invited to activate your Zoom cameras and join us as we toast the tenacity of the suffragists. And remember to post your photos on social media with the hashtag #ToastToTenacity. The bottom line is that we cannot have a healthy,
democratic form of governance without an informed and engaged electorate. I ask you to honor the sacrifices of those who fought for our right to be part of this democracy by being actively engaged in the political process, locally and nationally. Inform yourselves about the issues and about the people vying to make decisions for us. And please, use your voice and use your right to vote.